Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the summit. I'm actually sat in the conference room, which is on the top floor. Just below me, if you're used to coming here, is the Hub Cafe and the main hall where people are enjoying their cup of coffee. So I think we should join them. I've got a cup of coffee. If you've got one, cheers. So this is 21. And of course, the key verse is from Esther chapter 4, verse 14. And it's where Mordecai is saying to Queen Esther, and who knows that you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. A verse that has kind of always been over every single this conference. It was the theme of the first one. And we've had a different this verse every single year since. But this year, God has taken us back to this one. And I think that is actually highly significant because we are going forward into such a completely new season. And I think each of these seminars that we've got coming up this morning, there's me right now. After this, Paul Manwaring will be doing a seminar on the next half an hour. After that, Paul and Sue are together doing one. Then after that, it will be Ian Rossol. And finally, Alex, Brien and Nigel Marks are going to be doing a time of soaking worship straight here from this room. So settle back. If you're here for the whole ride, make yourself comfortable and just enjoy what God has to bring. Welcome to this 21 and the first seminar. So, the sharp-eyed amongst you, you'll have noticed the logo for this has remained consistent through just about all our years. In the very first year, Dan got very advanced and made animated graphics for us. And it was all sort of cogs and whirring parts. Do you remember that, Dan? He's over there behind the camera. And he made this animated thing and it had lots of cogs in it. And that cog has sort of just become the symbol of this. There's no real deep meaning in it. I don't think we're all cogs in a machine. We're far more than that. We are people in a family. But every year, just for fun, it gets a little new sort of coloured lozenge gets added into each one. Now, this is the sharp-eyed bit. Maybe you've never noticed that either, but this is the sharp-eyed bit. This year, there's no coloured lozenge. It's just a queen chess piece. Now, if you've watched a couple of Sundays where I've been speaking, you've probably got a hint at why there's a queen chess piece. But that queen chess piece is also why I want to call this session Consider the Queen. And interestingly, last night, and hadn't actually even occurred to me before. When Paul Manwaring was speaking, he was talking about the fact that Queen Esther was the queen that effectively replaced Queen Vashti. She was of a new era. She brought and ushered in a new season from when the Jewish people would have headed for disaster. With the new queen in place, they entered into a time of blessing and prosperity instead of disaster. And I thought, wow, that's also interesting in this whole thing of Consider the Queen. However, where this originally come from, it was actually a talk given by a guy called Alan Hirsch that I was listening to online, and he gave this illustration. I'd never heard it before, and just every time I've thought about it, I thought, yeah, this has got real interesting meaning for where we are right now. And I want to hopefully add a little bit for you compared to where we've been sort of mentioning it before. But there will be a little bit of repetition for those who've seen Sundays. So what was Alan's example? Well, he was using the example that if you want to learn to play chess well, one of the tactics apparently that you can use is to take your own queen piece off the board. Now, why would you do that? Well, when you play chess, obviously one of the most powerful, or the most powerful piece on the board is the queen. The queen's capable of moving in every single direction and will be one of your major sources of defense and offense when you're playing chess. So if you remove the queen, you have removed a piece, a strong piece in what you're doing, a strong piece in what enables you to win the game. So, and what you have to do then, if you are still going to win versus your opponent, and you'll probably lose a lot of times the first times you start doing it, to win against your opponent, you're really going to have to learn how to use the other pieces well. So the knights, the rooks, the pawns, your bishops, you're going to need to learn to use them very, very effectively. Because, I guess every good chess player knows, even the pawn pieces, potentially your weakest, most vulnerable pieces, can be considerably powerful and can even win you the game with a checkmate on the king of your opposition. So every piece has a value. And what you see on this chessboard then with the queen gone is you start to learn how to use all the pieces that the game gives you. You say, well, okay, what does that mean with the church? Well, we tentatively suggest that the queen piece is the Sunday morning gathering. It's a very powerful piece in the game. It's not really a game, but you know what I mean. The game of being church. It's one which we've tended to completely and utterly rely on. Getting everybody to a Sunday morning, preaching the gospel on a Sunday morning, worshipping on a Sunday morning, teaching on a Sunday morning. And that's right, it is. It's an incredibly powerful piece. But we can become overly reliant on it. The knight. Now, the knight is unique, isn't it, on the chessboard? I don't know if you know chess. Apologies if you don't. The knight is the piece that looks like a horse. And it moves like an L shape, a capital L on the board. And it sort of jumps over the other pieces. There's no other pieces like the knight. But you see, there are pieces in the church. And by which I mean things that we do. We're not talking about particularly individual people. That would almost seem rude. But it's about the things that we do. There are pieces in the life of our church that are a bit like the knight, you know, they not quite like anything else at all. Maybe they do jump over things and move in strange directions. They actually do something. The knight is really interesting because they do something that even the queen can't do in the way that they move. Though actually, if you think about it, the little tiny pawns, that's all the 8 pieces that line up in the front row. Even they can do one thing that the queen can't do in the way they jump forward 2 spaces right at the beginning of the game. And the queen is captured, if you like, almost by our own forces. So what I'm trying to say is there are these unique things. There are these things that are different that we need to access and value. And one of the things that this pandemic and this lockdown has done has showed us that the church has not been shut. The church has not been closed. In fact, the church opened up in a myriad of different places, in homes and when there was a bit more freedom, in coffee shops and on walks and just doing different things. And I think one of the key things is that we were kind of reminded that we are sent. Sunday mornings, and we're restarting Sunday mornings. We're restarting here Sunday mornings on the 6th of June. They're not going to be the same. They're going to be different. This is Queen Esther, not Queen Vashti. Of course, Queen Esther was still a queen. There was still the similarities of being a queen, but she brought in a new era. And as the queen piece comes back onto our chessboard Sunday mornings, she is a valuable piece. It makes a huge difference. But we don't want to let go of what we've learned and valued in this time. We really need to value the getting together over a cup of coffee. Okay, you could actually come to the summit. We're so blessed that the summit is open during the week. The coffee shop is open. It's a great place to meet up with friends. It's a big space, so it's safe. You can just chat and catch up after all this time of perhaps not seeing one another face to face. You can, why not get together with friends and do a Bible study or discuss a book that you've been reading, or even just pray together in one of the sofa booths around the main hall. They're looking great, by the way, if you haven't seen them. They've got new lights by them, and it's looking really, really good. So let's not lament that the church has been closed. Let's celebrate that the church has been opened in so many more places. But even as the Queen is put back on the board, let's recognize and celebrate and value that all these other things are church. Years ago, I gave a talk, and it's one of those talks that people often refer back to. It's probably just the title that does it. And the title of the talk was "Don't Go to Church." And it looks quite funny when you see it in the list of talks coming up on the podcast that there's a talk from the church called Don't Go to Church. And of course, the whole emphasis was the fact we can't go to church. Truly, biblically speaking, there is no such concept as going to church, because we are the church. And if the church is surfing, the church is, if people from the church are surfing together, the church is surfing, or it's doing the book club, or it's using electric scooters, or whatever it's doing. That is church, and we need to value that. And then we can value all the other things that we do when we're just enjoying what we enjoy doing. You know, if you love drama, maybe you've joined the YMCA theatre down the road. That will be church out there, meeting with people, connecting with people, giving people an opportunity to discover that Jesus is a lot more than the Queen piece on a Sunday morning. Because a lot of people still think of going to church, and we still talk about the church building, and we do still talk about going to church. It's so it's so ingrained in us, isn't it, that we can we use that language ourselves. But even if we're using that language, let's learn to name all the other things that we do as church. As we seek first his kingdom, as we seek first his righteousness, as we do our family things, we've learned to be households again. Having all these online opportunities, even just like this one, for many of us, we've brought the word, we've brought preaching, we've brought worship into our homes in ways that we have never done before. And we don't want to lose that. It's one of the reasons we are doing our very best, that even while we're going back to being in-person events at the summit as well, that we'll try and do as much as we can, but particularly Sunday mornings, online. This whole weekend is a huge experiment. We're using borrowed equipment that we've never used before to do what we're doing. And, you know, when we went into it, we're thinking, well, we haven't actually done in-person services with people coming, certainly in the numbers that are coming, for about 15 months. Let's do 3 in one weekend. Yay! But, you know, this is the time we're going into, this new season in God. It's going to be a time of experimenting. It's going to be a time of innovation, because we need to value all the pieces on the chessboard and make sure that we don't just start really depending on the Queen again. I mean, we've got great people in this church that are already out talking to people and sharing the gospel on the streets. You know, that's not something I've ever found easy. I don't know about you. It's something I've done. But, you know, it's definitely one of the pieces on the board. But we need every one of us to take a responsibility, not just look to others, to communicate and share the gospel in the natural ways that we do things as well. You know, those things are incredibly valuable. But when you're part of, I don't know, the bowling club, maybe you like, or golfing, or whatever it is, board games, of course, everybody associates with me. But when you're meeting and talking with those people, it is that opportunity to be effectively using a completely different piece to the Queen, but can be just as effective in communicating the gospel of Jesus Christ. Not by bombarding that person with the gospel, because nobody's going to want to play a board game with you, or nobody's going to share a cup of coffee or do knitting with you if all you keep doing is asking them, are they saved? But it's Jesus, by his Holy Spirit, lives in each one of us. It's the reason he said to his disciples that I am going to be leaving you. He knew he was going to die on the cross. He knew he was going back to heaven. But he said, I will be sending another. And the word in the Greek means another of the same type. In other words, another person of the Godhead is going to come to be your comforter, going to come to enable this connection that has come through the sacrifice of Jesus to be alive. We are connected to the Trinity, the Father, the Son, through the Holy Spirit. And that Holy Spirit is real in us. And we'll find there will be natural opportunities to talk about what we do, how we live our lives. And yeah, even why we go to church on a Sunday morning. So, let's break this new ground. We need to reevaluate not just the Sunday gathering, but the Monday to Saturday scattering. Okay? The Queen is back on the board. But remember, even as the Queen comes back on the board, we've got all these other pieces. Even as we're able to use the summit again, and not just Sunday mornings. And, you know, God gave us this place. He described it as a missional community centre. It's a place where we make people welcome. It's a place, we have welcome home written up in different places for the very real reason that that is what it is. And we've tried to make the facilities be somewhere that the church can really be celebrated, but just there for people to inquire and just for us to come alongside of people. So a question we've got to be asking ourselves that I want to leave you with is, how do we redesign the work of the church? And I don't mean just the Queen piece. And I want to say to you, this is not only a leadership question. It's a question that we should all be asking. There's a temptation to think a question like, how do we redesign the work of the church? What's the work of the church? To seek God, to seek first his righteousness, to seek first his kingdom. It's to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. This is to love is the work of the church. But how do we think of this? How do we redesign this? And this entering into this new season is something we all need to be thinking about. How am I using the chess pieces that are most available to me to be effective in the kingdom? This is an exciting new age. Consider the Queen. Consider that there is a new Queen. Queen Vashti of Esther, in the book of Esther, is fading into the background of how we've done things before. For a while, that Queen has been removed completely from everything that we do as we learn to use the new. And now we have the new Queen Esther. But she's not here to take over everything, but to enable us to completely have fresh and new ideas about what is going to happen next. Anyway, this is by way of an introductory seminar. And coming up next at 11 o'clock will be Paul. You don't need to retune this channel or anything like that. The stream is just going to continue. There'll be some slates and things coming up. So you've got a moment to grab another cup of coffee if you want, but, you know, don't have too much caffeine. Grab another cup of coffee and be ready for 11. That intro will play, and then Paul will, and actually I'll be here as well to welcome Paul. We'll be here on the sofas. So see you in the next seminar at 11 o'clock. God bless.
Jesus, your love is all I need in life. Jesus, your grace is such a gift to my life, and forever I'll praise your ever holy name, and forever my life be to your praise.